Success? Oh, hi. Glad you're here. I'm glad to be with you. Today I want to talk about 2006, the most impactful films on me that were released that year, 2006. Um, shall we? Mission Impossible 3. Mission Impossible is one of my all-time favorite franchises. I discussed in a previous video, I believe, the first one. The first one's one of my favorite movies. All kinds of yada yada yada. And then there was the second one, which was absolute garbage. The only one that I think is bad in the entire franchise is Mission Impossible 2. And I was like, I'll never forget being in that theater going, oh well, there goes that. But what did we expect when Limp Bizkit was doing the theme? I actually like Limp. Well, I mean, I like one of their albums. Anyway, so what a delight that J.J. Abrams, big household name now, but back then he was the guy doing Felicity and Alias. Two things I never watched. But his first directorial feature debut was Mission Impossible 3. And he saved the franchise. He saved the franchise. We would not be getting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 without J.J. Abrams' Mission Impossible 3. We're lucky enough to see Dead Reckoning Part 1, one of the best titles ever, this year, and Dead Reckoning Part 2, one of the best titles ever, next year, thanks to J.J. Abrams saving the franchise with Mission Impossible 3. Great film. Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace. What an amazing villain. So yeah, I love Mission Impossible. I love Mission Impossible 3, but we must acknowledge and be thankful that it saves the franchise. J.J. Abrams, I think he's only made one movie I wasn't a big fan of, and it was 8mm, which was pretty much just a remake of E.T. Yeah, I loved his Star Trek movie. Yeah, I loved both of his Star Wars films. Come at me, bro. Ultraviolet. I'm going to mention Ultraviolet starring Mia Jovovich, who has a beautiful singing voice and did a great Pussifer song. Look that up. I just have vivid memories of getting the DVD and watching it at home. And it was very ultraviolet. Literally. Let's go to prison. Let's not. I don't. Trust me, it's not a place you want to be. You never appreciate your freedom unless you've had a taste of losing it. But Let's Go to Prison is an amazing comedy that's one of those under the radar things that most people haven't even heard of. But it stars Will Arnett, like one of my favorite comedic actors of all time. And it's a hilarious film. Check out Let's Go to Prison. Southland Tales. Another, man, talk about underrated films. Southland Tales is on my list of one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. The guy who did Donnie Darko. Southland Tales, oh, this was like early rock, okay? As in Dwayne Johnson. And Sean William Scott, and I could go on and on about the fantabulous cast, but that movie, the way it's crafted, the story, the script, the editing, the cinematography, everything about that movie. Southland Tales is an amazing work of genius. This is the way the world ends. Not with a whimper, but with a bang. However, I understand it's an acquired taste, and most people. I could recommend it to you right now, and you can go and run and watch it, and you'll probably go, "What the heck, man? That was garbage." But if you have an open mind and you can really understand what it's saying, what it's doing, and how unique it is, Southland Tales is an absolute masterpiece in my mind, and I will forever. I'm a pimp, and pimps don't commit suicide. Suicide is murder. Borat. Now okay, okay. Let me break it down for you. Sacha Baron Cohen, aka Ali G, aka Borat, aka Bruno, aka the Dictator, aka King Julian, aka Sweeney Todd. Sacha Baron Cohen, I believe, is the greatest comedic genius of all time, up there with Andy Kaufman. I discovered, I don't know how, but I became a huge fan of the Ali G show that was on HBO. And part of the Ali G show, which was hosted by Ali G, there was Borat segments and there was Bruno segments. So he had like a straight to DVD movie for Ali G in the House, which is an amazing film. It fell through the cracks. I should have talked about it before. Amazing film, great comedy, love it, hilarious. But Ali G in the House, the movie, unlike the show, where the show he was doing his usual thing of pretending he was a real person, interviewing people, and they'd be like, "What the heck?" Google the Trump interview. It's hilarious. But the movie was actually scripted. It was just a scripted comedy. Boom, the end. But then we got Borat. Borat got a movie, and that was not scripted. That was one of those. I remember. No, that was Bruno. But still, Borat, an amazing film, obviously. One of the greatest comedies of all time, if you ask me. I mean, people will reference the naked wrestling and whatnot. For me, the epitome of that film is when he gets the telegram from the guy, the real guy, who's delivering a telegram to his hotel room that his wife's dead. And he just responds, "This says, my wife is dead?" And the guy goes, yes, sir. Sorry to inform you, but according to the telegram." And Borat says, "High five!" Because, marriage sucks. Forgive me, I don't mean that. All relationships suck. So Borat, fantastic film. Superman Returns. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Superman Returns. Superman Returns. Superman Returns. I love Superman Returns. I love that movie. I loved seeing it in theaters. I loved seeing it. I love the allegories. I love the whole Jesus thing at the end. I think Kevin Spacey is brilliant as Lex Luthor. Kryptonite. I love the plot. I love the story. I love the script. I love Superman Returns. It might be, I would think about maybe Man of Steel. Man of Steel? Not In Steel. That's a different movie with Shaq. Because Michael Shannon and all that. So I would have to really break it down and think about it, so they maybe would be next to each other. But aside from that fact, Superman Returns is probably my favorite Superman movie. Yeah. People don't like my opinions. Nobody's watching this. And if you are, you're probably like, "What an idiot." Great. I love having different opinions than other people. I'm the guy who hates every movie that everyone loves and loves every movie that everyone hates. Well, not every, but Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, for example. Anyway, like the shot with the bullet against his eyeball? Come on. Come on. To quote Will Arnett from Arrested Development, which takes us back to let's not go back to prison. Let's go to Silent Hill. Silent Hill. Okay, I'll mention the movie. I love the movie. I think it was a great adaptation of the video game. I think it was a great, creepy, eerie, horrifying, theatrical going experience. The sequel, meh. But the first one, I think it encompassed some of the game as well as it could. Not great, but good. I enjoy it. I appreciate Silent Hill for what it achieved. But I gotta say, I played the original game on PlayStation 1. That is the only time in my life I played a video game, and it scared the crap out of me. Every time you hear those sirens, and the lights go down, and all of a sudden you're in this creepy, hellish environment, and there's a monster right behind you! That game gave me the creeps. No other game I've ever played in my life was like, oh my gosh. But when I was, I don't know, that must have been back when I was late teens, playing the original game. Oh man, what a scary game. Love that game. Never played any of the others. What are you gonna do? Not a big gamer now, so don't come at me with your suggestions. I get it, but I thought the first movie did what it needed to do. 300. The movie. 300. Zack Snyder's first movie? Yeah. Which you know, as I was mentioning, Man of Steel earlier. I love all of Zack. Well, I don't. Okay, I love most of Zack Snyder's films. I like all of his films. There was that one zombie one recently. I don't like man. But 300 is. Refer to the last video of 2005 when I ranted about Sin City. Everything about that applies to 300. Straight off the page. Graphic novel. Frank Miller. Sin City. But that movie just amazing. We all know that. We all know 300's amazing. This is Sparta. Okay? We can move on now. But I will mention that 300 had... I have a list on my Letterboxd of the greatest trailers ever made, regardless of the quality of the film. Trailers? And 300 is definitely on that list. And the thing that I will never forget, that's one of my core memories, is being in a theater. I have as many core memories of seeing trailers in theaters as I do of seeing movies in theaters. And one of them is seeing the 300 trailer. And what blew me away immediately the second it started before I even saw an image was the music. And it was Nine Inch Nails, a particular... Yes, it's a song from The Fragile. And when they utilized that song for the trailer of 300, oh, what an amazing trailer. Look up the trailer for 300 with the one with doom 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 doom. It's a Nine Inch Nails song. Great album, by the way, The Fragile, if you're not familiar. So yeah, what a great marketing thing to and Zack Snyder's always done that. He uses great music in all of his trailers. Look at the 300 trailer. That's also on the list. An amazing trailer that introduced me to not only an amazing Smashing Pumpkins song, but the actual band Muse. The song Take a Bow we're not talking about Watchmen right now, though. All right. Shutting up. But it was, yeah. And I even, speaking of the song used in the 300 trailer that's from the Nine Inch Nails album The Fragile, back then I was writing movies and I had in my head, I had in my head visually, I could make a whole film that beginning to end was the soundtrack, like the soundtrack was The Fragile. I wrote a movie based on the album The Fragile. It was crazy. It was about angels and demons and big wars and end of the world. It was like Lord of the Rings, only heaven and hell. The Prestige gets overlooked a lot because it was smack dab in the middle. It was right after this is Christopher Nolan, and it was right after the first Batman, because I believe in between the second and third was when he did not Insomnia, excuse me. Not Inception? Yeah, Inception. That's when all of a sudden it got everybody's attention. Look at that turning hallway. But before that there was The Prestige, and The Prestige is a brilliant film, period, the end. I need say no more. The Prestige is a brilliant film, period, the end, about two competing magicians. But the beauty of The Prestige is it's a movie about a magic trick. But the movie itself is a magic trick. They describe what the prestige means in the movie, which is the big ending of the trick, but you have the setup, you have the deception, and then you have the reveal. And that's literally what the movie is. It's a freaking magic trick. You could watch that movie 100 times and it will still, it's mind-boggling how Nolan was able to craft such a masterpiece. Hugh Jackman, oh my gosh, how amazing is he in that? Same with Christian Bale, because they both play, no spoilers, David Bowie, rest in peace, as Tesla. And some of The Prestige takes place Cheyenne Mountain, which I can see right outside my window. Spoiler alert. Poseidon. When I was a kid, 2 old movies would come on TV that I just loved. Maybe 3? No, 2. 3? No, because that one was a 2. The Towering Inferno, about an earthquake and then people were trapped at the top of a skyscraper. Great movie. And the original Poseidon Adventure, about a boat getting turned over and people having to escape. I loved those movies. I loved a good disaster. We're in the worst possible place when this other thing went down, and how the heck do we get out of this one location and live? Loved it. So I love the original Poseidon Adventure. So they remade it to Poseidon. What is the guy? Kurt Russell, I think? Love it. I love the remake. I absolutely love it. Richard Dreyfuss, I love the remake. I think it holds up to the original. I wouldn't say one or the other is better, but it's a great fun movie. We got to get off this boat that's upside down in the middle of the ocean. Come on. And I also have a vivid core memory. I don't believe it was my first viewing, but I remember rewatching it at my son's mother's parents' house when my son was either a newborn or she was pregnant. She might have been pregnant, but anyway. It's probably the last time I saw it. That would have been over a decade ago. Wow. Anyway. Last but not least, as in the number one most impactful film of 2006 for me is X-Men 3. Or what do they... No, the second one was X2, X-Men United. And then the third one was X-Men 3, The Last Stand. And they were like, now we can put Wolverine's claws on the poster because it's the third one. I don't know why they called, either of these the way they did, but I love it. Yeah, that's right. I love X-Men 3. I love the first one. I love the second one. I love the third one. I love pretty much all the X-Men movies until we got to, like, Dark Phoenix. But I like the third one. I do. I really actually, no, it's not what it was supposed to be. It's not what it is in the comics. It's not what it was on the cartoon. But I like what they did with the Phoenix storyline. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for X3. I'll never forget seeing this movie with my wife at the time. Excuse me. And right at the beginning, we hated Cyclops. From the first one. He's just... Didn't like Cyclops. Who does? Especially that Cyclops. When the movie begins with Jean Grey killing Cyclops, sweet. We were so on board. And the way they made her such the ultimate and then how Wolverine had to sacrifice and kill his love in order to save everybody because she's going crazy. She's doing this. You got Magneto. And then you got the introduction of Juggernaut, played by what's-his-face from freaking Snatch. And then you've got... Oh, and then they kill off Professor X. Oh my gosh, do I love that scene. Holy cow, what a scene. He exploded. Like the cojones for a studio film to kill off a character like Professor X. That's not something you're going to get today. You're not going to have your MCU killing Iron Man. Anyway, usually. But I just love that movie and the action and the story and what they were doing with it and the allegory of the mutants versus and then Pyro, and then you get Pyro and Iceman, and I was waiting 3 movies for Iceman to go full Iceman. And he does? I love that movie. I really do. But then Kelsey Grammer as Beast would my ex-wife and I, we would crack up all the time at two lines of his in particular. Do you have any idea what a slippery slope you're on? Like his deadpan delivery of these two lines is hysterical. Like he's taking these ridiculous lines of dialogue so seriously that he pulls it off perfectly. Do you have any idea what a slippery slope you're on? And then they were talking about how like they capture Mystique, and they were talking about how turns out she was pretending to be someone else by looking like them, and he just responds with, "She can do that. She can do that. And she's Mystique. I mean, she can change her appearance. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." Oh, and then you get Multiple Man by the guy. Wasn't he like Mick? There was McDreamy, and then there was Mick Big Mac, or Mick something. I don't know. He was from Grey's Anatomy way back in the day. Is that show like still on, or it just ended, or something? I don't know. Multiple Man was it like it was? I like what they did with that movie, moving the bridge in San Francisco. You got the Alcatraz thing. You finally get Shadowcat. Speaking of Inception, come on now, it's all connected. And yeah, great movie. I love X-Men 3. It was the most impactful for me of the year because not only am I a huge X-Men fan and I really enjoyed the third one and it had a lot of balls to do all the kinds of cool stuff that it did, and I saw it with my wife and we enjoyed it. I have a core memory of being outside on a cigarette break. I used to smoke it, I don't anymore. With her, because we both worked together at Red Lobster, and while we were out there, we were talking with a coworker about the movie. And again, back in the day before everyone knew about every single yada yada, or you could just go online and find out, they all of a sudden go, "Did you guys see the end credit scene?" And we were like, "What?" Said, "Yeah, the end credit scene." Because they were trying to tell us that Professor X wasn't dead. I'm like, what? So we got all excited and we were like, we need to see it again. So we went and saw it again and stayed for the end credit scene, which they explain in the movie. Because in the comics, Professor X, they don't explicitly explain it in the movie, but if you piece two and two together, Professor X had a twin. And the twin, you have Moira talking about it in one scene that'll go right over most people's heads. Because she's talking about this patient and mentioning how what if his consciousness was taken over by someone else? And sure enough, that's what that scene is at the end of that movie. Professor X didn't die. His body was destroyed by Jean Grey, and at that moment, he transferred his very much like Palpatine. Somehow, Professor X returned. Just like Palpatine. Professor X took his consciousness. Hey. Works out nicely. And put it into the body of his twin brother who was in a coma his whole life or something like that. So that's why he wakes up. Hello, Moira. So then when people came across, after that Wolverine movie, and then we finally got into Days of Future Past or something, and they're like, wait, I thought Professor X was dead. I guess you didn't see the end credit scene. It's all right there. He transferred his consciousness into an identical body. That was still crippled, yes, because that body had been comatose its entire life. It had no function. It adds up. It adds up. Oh, and we finally got a Sentinel in that movie, kind of. We got the Danger Room. But yeah, I got a core memory of that being one of the original end credit scenes that blew my wife and I's mind when we heard about it and then went and saw it. And then there you go. That changes the whole movie. And that was one of my first experiences with, I had a movie, and then I had one little extra scene that completely changed it. So yeah, 2006, X-Men 3, The Last Stand. I mean, that scene when he's come, I think about that sequence and that exchange quite a bit. when Jean Grey is looking at Wolverine as his flesh is being torn from his metallic body, metallic skeleton, and he's just forcing himself up to her to just stop her, to save everyone. And she says, "You did all this for them?" And he says, "No, for you." Cyclops was still dead, though. Okie dokie.